Alright, next up we have Silas. She is going to talk about the impact of climate change on habitats and species.
Silas, can you help us explore how changing climates affect different habitats around the world, such as polar regions, forests, and oceans? And then we'll have you discuss the impact on animals and plants in these areas, emphasizing endangered species and changes in biodiversity.
Of course. In the polar regions, there is significant damage due to climate change, such as melting ice, loss of habitat, and threat to species. One of the most significant impacts of climate change on polar regions is the melting of ice caps and glaciers. This affects species like polar bears, seals, and penguins that rely on sea ice for hunting, breeding, and resting. As ice melts, polar bears, for example, have to swim longer distances to find food, leading to increased energy expenditure and decreased survival rates. In addition, melting ice affects the entire Arctic ecosystem, from algae and plankton to whales and seabirds. Many species in polar regions are already endangered due to habitat loss and changes in prey availability. Climate change exacerbates these threats, pushing species closer to extinction. In forest regions, climate change has also caused damage such as shifts in growing seasons, increased drought and wildfires, and invasive species. Climate change alters temperature and precipitation patterns, affecting the timing and duration of growing seasons in forests. This can disrupt the life cycles of plants and animals that depend on seasonal cues for breeding, migration, and foraging. Rising temperatures and changes in precipitation increase the frequency and severity of droughts and wildfires in forested areas. This leads to habitat destruction, loss of biodiversity, and displacement of wildlife. Climate change also creates favorable conditions for invasive species to thrive in forests, outcompeting native species for resources and further disrupting ecosystem balance. In the ocean, there have been effects such as ocean acidification, shifts in marine habitats, and loss of coastal habitats. Increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere lead to ocean acidification, which harms marine life such as coral reefs, shellfish, and plankton. Coral bleaching caused by warmer ocean temperatures is a significant threat to coral reefs worldwide. Changing ocean temperatures and currents affect the distribution and abundance of marine species, leading to shifts in habitats and changes in species interactions. For example, warmer waters can lead to the expansion of tropical species into temperate regions, impacting local diversity. Rising sea levels driven by melting ice caps and thermal expansion of seawater threaten coastal habitats like mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrass beds. These habitats provide essential nurseries and feeding grounds for many marine species. There has also been an impact on endangered species due to increased vulnerability and loss of biodiversity. Endangered species are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change due to their limited geographic range, specialized habitat requirements, and low population numbers. Climate change accelerates the rate of species extinction by disrupting ecosystems, reducing habitat availability, and increasing the frequency of extreme weather events. This loss of biodiversity has far-reaching consequences for ecosystem function, resilience, and human well-being. Understanding these impacts is crucial for conservation efforts aimed at mitigating the effects of climate change and protecting vulnerable habitats and species. Adaptation strategies, habitat restoration, and international cooperation are essential for addressing the complex challenges posed by changing climates.
Thank you, Silas, for sharing your expertise and explaining the impact that climate change has on our habitats and species.